Hello everyone, I hope you're all keeping well, healthy and happy. I thought I would make a video on the myth of male privilege. Because over the decades, I've seen in my lifetime, and I'm sure you've seen in yours, that there has been an all-out gender war declared on all things masculine. It's a war on masculinity. And it's been waged by these subverted socialist feminists who have been carrying it out since 1972. And the results are plain to see. We can see that Western civilization has become nihilistic, self-destructive, and is teetering on self-annihilation as a result. The results are plain to see. You can see the destruction that it's caused. People's lives have been destroyed. Young men, young boys, young girls even. You see it across the board. But let's get into the specifics of this myth and why it's a myth that men have some kind of privilege. Men are 90% of combat fatalities. Men pay 97% of alimony. Men make up 94% of work suicides. Men make up 93% of work fatalities. Men make up 81% of all war deaths. Men lose custody in 84% of divorces. Men make up 81% of homeless persons in England alone. 80% of all suicides are men. 77% of homicide victims are men. 89% of men will be the victim of at least one violent crime. Men are 165% more likely to be convicted than women. Men receive 63% longer prison sentences than women for committing the same crime. And then, of course, we have this larger problem of fatherlessness, this epidemic of fatherlessness. And again, I've touched on this previously in very brief terms. But here's the reality of the destruction that it causes, the effect that it has on people's lives in a very real sense. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. That's according to the US Department of Health. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes, according to the CDC. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. That's according to Justice and Behaviour, Volume 14. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centres come from fatherless homes. 70% of youths in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes. That's according again to the US Department of Justice. 85% of all youths in prison come from fatherless homes. All of these are very sobering statistics because these are not just numbers. There are people behind these numbers that have been affected in these ways in very, very large ways. Okay, very serious ways. And what you see are these unfortunately subverted socialist feminists trotting this garbage out all the time about how men have privilege. What in any of that shows any kind of privilege? This myth of male patriarchy. Where is the patriarchy in any of this? Because apparently men are running things to better themselves, at least, or benefit themselves. That's what the myth of patriarchy tells us. Do you see men benefiting from that? No. What you see is great suffering taking place in the lives of children, in the lives of grown adults. And what kind of effect is this having on women? Well, women globally are suffering the highest rates of mental illness than have ever been seen in history. Okay? According to the UN, I think it was something like 71% of all women right across the world are suffering from some sort of mental illness. So these are really, really serious problems. When you do these kind of things, when you think that you are on the side of social justice, but are in fact destroying society, you might want to think about why you hold the ideological positions and beliefs you do. But of course, modern-day feminists and second-wave feminists and third-wave feminists and today's fourth-wave feminists don't want to hear about it, right? Because they want to stick to their narrative, because in their minds, it's more important. The ideology is more important than the truth. And these facts are the truth. People are suffering because of this war on masculinity. And yet you still have idiots out there that keep talking about toxic masculinity, man-spreading, mansplaining. None of these things are real. They're all subjective nonsense. Okay? The objective facts are those that we've just stated. And you can see right throughout society what is happening as a result of it. You know, too many times through history, people have been silent about things. And it's this silence that's contributed to the problem. Because for a long, long time, the men who were affected, or the men who saw other men who were affected, stayed silent. All to please these socialist feminists. See, this is what's wrong with society. If you're always out there as a man trying to please women, you're a white knight. Okay, as the manosphere terms you. You're a white knight. You need to stop doing that. That's not your job out there. Because the more you try to please people and be someone that you're not, and to even give up your own sense of masculinity while you're doing it, the less likely you are to succeed. You'll lose your own sense of self-identity through it. And that is, in fact, exactly what has happened to society as a whole. Right? People have lost their sense of self-identity. People don't know who they are. Now, I don't know how you combat that. I don't know how you start addressing these problems. Do you start legally, trying to redress them legally? Maybe that's one way to do it. There's a lot of men's rights activists that are trying to do that. Are there other ways to combat it? Perhaps protesting, perhaps men going their own way, maybe. Maybe those are just temporary solutions to very serious problems. I don't know. But one place we do have to start is by acknowledging the facts. And these are the facts. And there is no sympathy, there's no empathy that is given to men who suffer the consequences of these things that we've spoken about. There's no empathy at all. If there was, these figures and statistics wouldn't be so high, specifically and especially for suicide, male suicide. The rates of male suicide should put us all to shame. Do you want your sons to be growing up in a situation, in a society that is messed up like this, that is as sick as this society is, where they are put through immense suffering because of misandry? Because there are men who would much rather please women than understand that they have to stand up and acknowledge their own masculinity and stand up for other men that suffer. Now, we do have some very bright lights in regards to many of these things. People that actually speak about these things. Just recently, the filmmaker Cassie J produced The Red Pill. Excellent film. If you haven't seen it, you want to go and watch that. You've had Karen Strawn talk about many things that are relevant to men. You have had Paul Elam, who has done some fantastic work, and I would thoroughly recommend that you check out his videos on his channel, An Ear for Men. You have numerous others. Erin Pezzi, who started the first women's shelter. Erin Pezzi. My apologies for the mispronunciation. But she started the first women's shelter. And then she tried to open a men's shelter and was crucified for it. by feminists. Men who were affected by domestic violence. According to many statistics and many numbers, most recently one that was published by the Guardian newspaper, which ironically is as far left as you can get, over 40% of victims of domestic violence were men. That's almost half. Some figures put it at just exactly a half, but it's almost half of all domestic violence cases. And these are really, really important issues, and so few in the greater scheme of things are actually talking about them. You know, you can't keep going through as a society this decay that we're seeing. At some point you have to just acknowledge that there is a very, very serious problem here. And we're seeing gender dynamics falling apart because of it as well. More and more men are refusing to get into relationships with women. They're disengaging completely from society. And it's little wonder when you've got all these insane things going on. So I think it's important to keep in mind that all too frequently our media is driven by specific agendas. I've said this time and time again. And the things that drive those agendas are unironically the very same things that drive the agendas behind this socialist feminism. Now, I wish this wasn't true. I wish this was perhaps just some kind of nonsense, but it isn't. It's the absolute reality, the absolute fact of the matter. And I'm tired of seeing men getting broken by a system that doesn't care about them. I'm tired of seeing men suffer as a result of it. I'm tired of seeing boys suffer abuse at the hands of women. I was reading a thing just today about how a woman had put a gun to her son's head as a way of disciplining him and then shot him. And the reason she gave for that was that she had to show him that she was in control as a parent. That's lunacy. It's lunacy that people would excuse the killing of a child because this woman is a woman. We have to start waking up to the insanity of society and try and start putting it right, because if we don't, it just ends up being a one-way street and it doesn't lead anywhere good. Okay? Anyway, I thought it was incumbent on me to present this information to you, and hopefully you will get something from it. But I want to thank you very much for watching this video, because I know these aren't always easy things to talk about or to hear, and they can be difficult to take on board sometimes, but they are facts. So thank you. And I want you to take good care of yourselves in future, and don't look down on yourselves too much, and believe in yourselves, and support the men in your lives if you're women, and men, you need to stay strong within yourselves. Don't let the system drive you down and break you. Anyway, take good care of yourselves, and God bless you.